When I was young, we used to go to my grandpa's house for vacations as it was away from the city's hustle and bustle. It was a big house, more like a mansion, with great Victorian-style furniture and interior, and a big lawn. It was the best place for vacations. That house was inherited by my dad after my grandfather passed away. My brother and I were the most excited about the move. At that time, I was around 12 or 13 years old, and my brother Josh was 10. In the afternoon. I remember very well the day we arrived. The house was huge. Everything was going great, and we were having fun. But soon we started getting bored in such a big house with just the two of us. We decided to play hide and seek. I asked Josh to hide, and I would start finding him after counting down to 10. Josh followed through and ran to hide. I counted to 10 and then opened my eyes, starting to look for him throughout the whole house. Such a big mansion, it was difficult to find him. I searched in every corner of the house. When I finished looking in the living area and moved to our room, I passed by the stairs, and that's when I heard something. A sound like something falling down. When I looked upstairs, I heard those footsteps, as if someone is running. I knew it was Josh, and now I knew he was up there, so I ran upstairs and followed the footsteps. I was now in my grandpa's room and had scanned it all. When I was about to leave, I heard giggles coming from the bathroom that I had forgotten to check. I smiled and silently went, slowly opening the door without making any sound. I scanned the whole area, but found no one. The only place left was the bathtub. I quickly moved the curtain, and to my amazement, there was no one. I was positive that I heard the giggle from the bathroom, and now I was there all alone. How was that even possible? It kind of scared me, and I was about to leave when I heard footsteps. I was terrified and quickly hid in the tub, pulling the curtain closed. I thought it must be Josh, but my instincts told me to hide. I heard it approaching. It was my Josh's voice, but something was off. That was not how Josh normally talks. His voice had a strange tone that sent chills down my spine. He was maliciously laughing and calling my name to come out. Not any 10-year-old boy could ever do that. My heart started beating fast. I could hear it thumping loudly. And then I put my hand over my mouth when I heard that laugh change into screams. He was screaming at me to come out. Those soft footsteps had turned into heavy footsteps. Through the bathroom curtain, I saw a large silhouette with a hat approaching. I was just praying that whoever it was wouldn't open the curtain, but he raised his hand to do just that, and suddenly I was there. Was water in the tub and drowning. The silence in the room had turned into my gasps, coughs, and bubbling like a muffled sound. It was as if someone was forcing me underwater, and I was struggling. I tried so hard, and all of a sudden, it all vanished. I looked around, but there was no sign of anyone, and I was not wet at all. I was scared as hell. I ran downstairs, and I saw Josh sitting at the dining table, fed up from hiding for so long. He started complaining that I didn't find him. I knew the person I saw was not Josh. Even though I heard his voice, it couldn't be him. I told my parents everything, and they quickly believed what I said, which I thought nobody would. I got a high fever that stayed for days, and I had dreams of that person approaching and chasing me for years. My parents didn't tell me about it until many years later. I was cleaning the store with my dad when we found some of Grandpa's stuff, and Dad shared a very disturbing story. Grandpa had another brother who committed suicide by drowning in the second-floor bathtub. Nobody knows why he did that. At that moment, they did not tell me anything because I was a child, and they did not want to scare me further. I don't know why it happened to me, or maybe it wanted to tell me something. I don't even know if it was something good or evil. But still, to this day, I'm afraid of going to that house, especially in that room. My mother and I have an abusive past. My father was a bad person. He would get drunk and then yell at me and Mom. One day, finally, Mom decided not to take it anymore. Long story short, my parents got divorced. I was about 16 at that time. We moved to another city for a new start, But my mom, despite all the challenges and stress she had been through, never made me feel it. We were enough for each other. We found a new house and shifted in no time. It was a very small one, but more than enough for the two of us. I got admission to a school there, and Mom got a job as well. Everything was going well. We were moving on, and I had made new friends. We had left behind the old bad memories. But then one day, something very strange happened to me. When I came back home from school, strangely, the door was already open. I entered and greeted my mom, but I got no response. When I checked, I found her cooking in the kitchen. I greeted her again, but she didn't look back or reply. That was a little strange, but I overlooked it. Told him I was going to freshen up and go back to the kitchen for lunch, as it had been a long day for me, and I was hungry. I went to my room, changed into comfy clothes, and after a few minutes, I went back. Mom was still standing in the kitchen. I asked her if the food was ready while I sat at the table, waiting for her to bring it as usual. But she was still standing there, motionless. I asked her what was wrong or if she was upset about something. At first, I thought she was mad at me for some reason, but it was strange that she wasn't replying. She always shares everything with me. I asked her many times, but she didn't even look at me. I simply decided to leave. I was about to leave when I heard plates being put on the table. I sat down and started eating. She left the kitchen, leaving me to eat alone. Well, I was hungry, and the food was great, so I continued eating, but I was concerned about what had happened. I thought it must be some financial problem, but then I thought it could be related to Dad. He might be bullying her. Concerned, I quickly finished lunch and started looking for her to talk to her, but she was not in her room. I scanned through the whole house, but she was nowhere to be found. I was worried for her now. I wanted to call her, but we had only one cell phone in the house, which she had probably taken with her. I worried and was thinking about what else I could do, but then I heard the entrance door open. I ran to check and was relieved to find it was her. I asked her what happened and why she was behaving this way, but Mom was clueless. Then I realized her hands were full of grocery shopping stuff. She told me she had been shopping since the morning and had just arrived. She had no idea what I was talking about. I told my mother what happened. We went to the kitchen to show her, but to my amazement, everything was clean. There was no food in the pots, nor had they been used that day. My mom thought that I was having stress and anxiety issues and even started thinking of consulting a psychiatrist. But I knew what happened to me was real. I ate that food, and it satisfied my hunger. The next day, I told my friends about what happened, and they told me that in the same house, there used to live a lady who went mad after her child died and her husband left her. She went quiet and would cook, clean, and buy toys for her child, claiming that it was alive and lived with her. It sent chills down my spine to know about that backstory. I asked what happened to the lady, but nobody knows. She just vanished one day. Until now, I don't know who the other woman in the kitchen was. I just couldn't shake the feeling that someone who looked exactly like my mom was there. Since then, I've always felt like someone else is with us as well, and I'm always afraid to think about what I could have eaten because my mother hadn't even cooked. And I don't know who cooked that food, or if it was even meant for me.
Subscribe to the channel to hear the strangest stories of encounters with the unknown. I'll tell you the best tales of horror, mystery, and suspense. When whispers and shadows lurk in the darkness, the time for nightmares has come.
My wife Nora and I are both working partners. Recently, she got a transfer from her job to the main city area, which was about an hour's distance from our old home. So we decided to move to a new place that is near to both of our workplaces. We started looking for one, and luckily, we found it. It was a big, double-story house with great woodwork done on it. We went to have a look, and it seemed fine. We were afraid it would cost a fortune, but strangely, it was not expensive at all. We got it much cheaper than the market price. Upon inquiring, the owner told us it was because the upstairs story of the house was not well done and not suitable for living. Well, that made sense. And since we weren't planning on having babies anytime soon, it wouldn't be a problem for us right now. We quickly agreed and decided to move in 2 days. We were happy. We moved our stuff and shifted to our new house. It was a great house. Nora's workplace was just 15 minutes away, and mine was also nearby. Everything went normally and pretty great. After 1 week, I felt like I needed a new study in our house, as I am a lawyer and most of the time, I have to stay awake working on my cases. Nora gets disturbed by the lights in the room, so I decided to make a room upstairs. There was a big wooden door with glass in the frame that opened into the upper story of the house, but the owner had locked it and didn't give me the keys. On asking, he said he lost them and we shouldn't go there. Well, I simply broke the lock. It was a great area, well furnished, unlike the way the owner described it. At first, I was confused as to why he would lie to us, but then I brushed it off. I got that area cleaned and made it my study along with a small kitchen, great for my late-night work on cases. And everything started after that. I used to spend most of my time there all alone with my case laws and books, but I must say, from the very first day, I had the feeling of constantly being watched. Then one night, while studying, I heard a strange noise in the kitchen. I went to check but found nothing. When I turned, I saw a shadow in the glass of that door. I ran to check but found nothing. I thought it must be because of lack of sleep and called it a day going back to sleep. But I couldn't sleep that night. I had a very bad dream that felt like reality. I saw a long black shadow approaching me. My eyes were open and I wanted to scream, but I couldn't speak. I wanted to move to wake up Nora, who was peacefully sleeping alongside me, but I couldn't. The shadow came closer, but I finally got the courage to move with a small scream, and it vanished. Nora woke up. I was kind of terrified by what I saw, but she told me not to think much of it, and that it was just a dream, and it is normal. I thought she was right at that time, but after that day, I started having those dreams every night. I was not able to sleep. Then one day, I woke up to that voice. Someone was whispering my name. I followed the voice. It was coming from upstairs. I went there and saw that shadow again, a long black shadow with no other features visible except for those red eyes. It was standing at a distance, and in the next blink of an eye, it was right in front of me, grabbing my hand. I wanted to run, but that entity's grasp was so tight that I couldn't. It moved its other hand ahead and scratched my arm. I screamed aloud. All of a sudden, I found myself back in my bed. Nora woke up and asked what was wrong. I told her not to worry and that it was just a bad dream. But I knew something was off. When I checked my arm, those scars were still there. I knew everything happening to me was not my imagination, but reality. The next morning, while I was having breakfast, that shadow appeared suddenly, sitting on the chair alongside me. I saw Nora, who was having breakfast, clueless. I could hear those whispers, "Kill her." And my arm seemed to be moving on its own, trying to grab a knife. I gathered all my courage and just left the house. Nora was confused about what happened, but then, when I was in the car, I saw her running outside the house. She told me someone was inside, a shadow, and it tried to hurt her. She was way too scared. It was my last straw. Everything started after we shifted to that house, and I went upstairs. I may have released a bad spirit by opening that upstairs portion. We went to my friend's house and stayed there until we found a new place. I wanted to sue the owner of that house for scamming us, but he vanished without leaving any sign. The good thing is that the entity didn't follow us, and nothing bad happened to either of us after that day.